Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for attending our little historic event. I am Steve Gemini, Marshal of Door to Virtue Lodge, Masonic Lodge here in Westminster. I will be your Masters of Ceremonies for this evening. Standing with me are Brother Dave Robbins, our ritualist and today's orator, along with our chaplain, Brother George Bowers. Where is George? There you go. Can't do this without George. Color Guard. It is my honor to welcome the Color Guard of American Legion Post 31. Please join me in thanking these veterans for their continued service to our nation. All please rise for the presentation of colors.
Present. On.
Would everyone standing please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brother Chaplain, please deliver the invocation.
Order. Color. Parade. Press.
Let us pray. Supreme Architect of the universe, we invoke thy blessing at this time. We thank you for the wisdom and courage you granted to the writers of the Declaration of Independence. We honor their bold vision that all people are created equal and endowed with unalienable rights by our Creator. May this gathering, thus begun in order, be conducted in peace and closed in harmony. Amen.
So mote it be. If anybody would like to be seated, please feel free to be seated. I want to take just a moment to explain what we're doing here. So, friends and brethren, we who are Masons are assembled on this occasion to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. While the Continental Congress, after weeks of debate, voted to declare independence on July 2nd, the Declaration of Independence wasn't ratified until July 4th, which we celebrate as Independence Day. John Dunlap, official printer to Congress, then worked to set 1,322 words, nearly 800 pieces of lead type, into a printer's frame to print approximately 200 copies, which were distributed across the colonies and communities. The first public reading of the Declaration of Independence took place in Philadelphia on July 8, 1776, when Colonel John Nixon read it aloud to a crowd gathered on the yard of the State House, now known as Independence Square. The fraternity of Freemasonry was deeply involved in shaping the core principles and values of our country. Many of the representatives at the Continental Congress, many of the notable officers in the Continental Forces, and patriots were Freemasons. In Maryland alone, about 50% of the 250 officers serving were Freemasons. Sharing as we do not only our belief in service to God, our country, and our neighbors, but more importantly, to the commitment of honesty, integrity, and moral values. Masonry has come down from the far past. It uses the tools of the builder's trade as emblems and symbols to teach Masons how to build character and moral statute. It teaches service to God, to a brother, and to all mankind. Masonry is a fellowship that unites Masons in friendship and goodwill. As we celebrate the semi-quincentennial of the first public reading of our Declaration of Independence, let us all strive to strengthen these connections and explore opportunities to work together towards improving society for the benefit of all men. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a number of speakers here this evening, without whom some of these activities could not have been done. So I'd like to call first, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce the Honorable Frederick S. Hecker, Circuit Administrative Judge to the Circuit Court serving Carroll County. Judge Hecker has devoted his career to the administration of justice and the rule of law. Please join me in welcoming Judge Hecker.
Thank you and welcome. How fitting is that we are gathered here today on the steps of this historic courthouse built in 1838, the cornerstone of which was laid in part by Joshua Gist, brother of a Revolutionary War hero, Mordecai Gist. So it's my honor and privilege to be a part of this historic event. Today we gather to commemorate a remarkable milestone, the 250th anniversary of our nation and the 250th anniversary of Maryland's first Constitution, one of the oldest constitutions in the country. Maryland's Declaration of Rights protects many of the same rights that are protected in the United States Constitution's Bill of Rights. It is largely the same as the original draft in 1776. As we prepare to read the Declaration of Independence, we do more than remember a historical document. We honor the enduring principles that gave birth to a new nation and continue to guide us today. When the Declaration was adopted in 1776, it was a revolutionary statement that government derives its power from the consent of the governed and that every person possesses fundamental rights that no person may take away. The Declaration did not simply announce independence. It explained why the American people believed liberty, self-government, and justice were worth defending. Many of the grievances lodged against King George III concerned the administration of justice. The founders objected to courts that were not independent, judges who served at the pleasure of a king, and the denial of basic legal protections such as trial by jury. Their experience taught an enduring lesson: freedom depends upon the rule of law. Here in Maryland, that lesson remains woven into our constitutional traditions. Maryland's Declaration of Rights and Constitution, first adopted in 1776, reflect the belief that government must be accountable, that rights must be protected, that justice must be available to all. For 250 years, Marylanders have worked to preserve and strengthen those principles through democratic self-government and an independent judiciary. As we listen to the words of the Declaration today, we should remember that the freedoms we enjoy were not guaranteed by history. They were secured by generations of citizens who accepted responsibilities of citizenship, participating in their communities, respecting the rule of law, and working to ensure the promises of liberty and equality remain meaningful for future generations. May this anniversary inspire us not only to celebrate our history, but also to renew our commitment to the ideals expressed in the Declaration of Independence and embodied in Maryland's constitutional heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Hecker. Just checking my time here because we are driven today by the clock. We have a representative from the Maryland Legislature representing the citizens of Maryland, 5th Legislative District, is the Honorable Chris Tomlinson among us? Member of the House of Delegates, please welcome Delegate Tomlinson. And if you'd like to take a couple minutes, or probably just a couple minutes will fit you.
1 minute.
Thank you.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Good to see everybody. I'm Chris Tomlinson. Like you said, I represent Carroll and a little bit of Frederick County, along with Senator Justin Reedy and Delegate April Rose. I have with me here my daughter, Abigail. She has a really nice little patriotic dress on, but she insisted on throwing this princess dress over top of it, and this is just a battle I'm not going to fight. In addition, Senator Justin Reedy, Delegate April Rose, and myself, also Delegate Christopher Eric Boucher, who's with us there with the patriotic hat on. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you to the Masons for putting this together. This is a really great event, and I'm going to stop talking because there's a lot more important things that we're going to hear from here. So thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Representing the Carroll County government and the citizens of District 3, it's my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Tom Gordon III, Carroll County Commissioner. Please join me in welcoming Commissioner Gordon.
Thank you, and good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us all tonight on the historic courthouse steps to commemorate an extraordinary moment in our nation's history. It's especially meaningful that we gather here exactly 250 years to the day after the Declaration was first read aloud in public July 8th, 1776. On that day in Philadelphia, thousands gathered to hear the words that forever changed the course of history. The Declaration had been approved just days earlier, and as it was proclaimed publicly, church bells rang, celebrations erupted, and the promise of a new nation began to spread throughout the colonies. Tonight we have that privilege of reliving that tradition here in Carroll County. I want to extend my sincere appreciation to the Honorable Judge Hecker for graciously opening these historic courthouse steps and allowing us to take part in this special commemoration. Thank you, Your Honor, and for helping us to preserve and celebrate our shared history. I also want to thank the Door to Virtue Masonic Lodge for organizing and executing this event. Tonight we all become part of history. It's also fitting that we remember that Charles Carroll of Carrollton, the last surviving signer of the Declaration of Independence, and the man for which Carroll County is proudly named. The signers represented tremendous courage and unwavering commitment to the ideals of liberty and self-government. Their legacy continues to inspire all of us 250 years later. As we prepare to hear these timeless words once again, let us remember that the Declaration is more than a historic document. It is a reminder that each generation has the responsibility to protect the freedoms it proclaims and to continue the work of building a more perfect union. And thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gordon. And finally, representing our host city, I believe Mayor Mona Beckert is here. It is my pleasure to introduce her, and she's going to have a few words.
I won't go past 6. Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking the Door to Virtue Lodge number 46, Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons of Maryland, for hosting this reading of the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration was more than just a statement of independence. It expressed ideas about freedom, equality, and self-government that have influenced people around the world for generations. Although the nation has continued to work fully towards living up to those ideals, this document remains a symbol of the values on which the United States was founded. As we commemorate our nation's semi-quincentennial, we honor not only the vision of our founders, but also the generations of Americans who have worked to preserve, defend, and expand the promise of liberty. Our history includes remarkable achievements, difficult struggles, and a continued commitment to building a more perfect union. The Declaration of Independence is not just a document from the past. It is a reminder that the ideals of liberty and equality remain important today, both across the United States and in communities like Westminster, Maryland, where history and civic pride continue to inspire future generations. As we celebrate this historic milestone, may we reflect on the blessings of freedom, express gratitude to those who have served our country, and renew our dedication to the ideals that unite us. Happy 250th, and may the spirit of liberty continue to guide our nation for generations to come. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, in a moment or two, the Clockworks is going to begin its inevitable journey towards 6 o'clock. And I've got about a minute to introduce you to contemplate on this moment. 250 years ago, citizens gathered in Philadelphia to hear for the very first time these remarkable words. We invite you now to imagine that you are among them on the steps of what is now Constitution Hall And as the bell marks the hour, let us all return, if only for a few minutes, to July 8th, 1776. So in about 30 seconds, the clock is going to arm the chime. That's a ker-chunk sound. This was in case any of the speakers ran long, they were going to get a warning. So now I'm the speaker who's liable to run long, and I'm going to get a warning. And then we're going to have about 30 seconds of contemplative quiet when the ticking of the clock signals the imminent chime of 6 o'clock. And at exactly 6 o'clock, Brother Dave Robbins, the orator, will begin his reading.
When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to order or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation until his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause them to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions from within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for the purpose of obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriation of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices, sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their sustenance. He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies, without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and a fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is, at this time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. And in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in the intentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of the attempts by their legislatures to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlements here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would invariably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind. Enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, and contract alliances, and establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Signed by order in behalf of the Congress, John Hancock, President. Attested to by Charles Thompson, Secretary. The signers of the Declaration of Independence was a total of 56. They were the President of the Congress, John Hancock from Massachusetts Bay. From New Hampshire, Josiah Bartlett, William Whipple, and Matthew Thornton. From Massachusetts Bay, Samuel Adams, John Adams, Robert Treat Payne, Elbridge Gerry. From Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, Stephen Hopkins and William Ellery. From Connecticut, Roger Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, and Oliver Wolcott. From New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, and Lewis Morris. From New Jersey, Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkinson, John Hart, and Abraham Clark. From Pennsylvania, Robert Morris, Benjamin Rush, John Morton, George Clymer, James Smith, George Taylor, James Wilson, and George Ross. From Delaware, Caesar Rodney, George Reed, and Thomas McKean. From Maryland, Samuel Chase, William Paca, Thomas Stone, and Charles Carroll of Carrollton. From Virginia, George Wythe, Richard Lee Henry, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harrison, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lightfoot Lee, and Carter Braxton. From North Carolina, William Hooper, Joseph Hughes, and John Penn. From South Carolina, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., and Arthur Middleton. And from Georgia, Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, and George Walton.
Thank you, Dave. Very much appreciate that. Excellent job.
Pleasure.
At this moment, I'd like to thank our worshipful master, J. Scott Wimmer, for tasking me with this honorable assignment. Worshipful master, you have a few words for us?
Keep it under a half hour.
Oh, no problems. I'd all like you to take a second and contemplate what was going on 250 years ago. As we all are thinking we're hot and sweaty right now, they were all dressed in wool and long gowns. So we're not suffering anything compared to what they did. And also the importance of what they took and the penalties they paid afterwards. These 56 signers became targets of the British Army, and they hunted them down, and they tortured them, and they took their belongings away from them, their family and everything. So understand that the rights we have today, to be able to do this, is because of their forethought and their efforts. And with that, I would like to have a moment of silence for the 56 signers. Thank you. And from the lodge, we'd like to especially thank the judge who made this night possible. For it's his courthouse, his court lawn, and it seemed to be no better place in Carroll County than here, with the dated times that this courthouse holds, to have made this reading here. And again, Judge, thank you.
Now, we had as an invited guest, Most Worshipful Grand Master of Masons in Maryland and his Grand Line. Apparently, they were unavoidably detained and are unable to be with us. So I bring you, there, Brother Randall Watson, Worshipful Grand Master. Would you share a few words with us?
We're a little late, but we're here.
Well, come on up here.
No. Go ahead and do that.
Okay. And finally, I would like us all to express our sincere appreciation to the American Legion Color Guard for honoring us with their participation today. Brother Chaplain, will you deliver the benediction?
Let us pray. May the blessings of heaven rest upon us and all citizens of these United States. May we always cherish and protect these precious freedoms. May brotherly love prevail and every moral and social virtue cement us. Amen.
Color guard, retire the colors.
Up and up. Carry, color. Right, hey. Forward, march.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we proceed out, thank you again for attending.